Welcome to your journaling guide for research, self-reflection, and media literacy. Hi guys, and welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about my journaling methods, or in other words, my notebook ecosystem. It is divided into 3 notebooks: my everyday commonplace notebook, my new favorite, which is my official commonplace book, and this is a substitute for I forgot my actual one at home, but this is my standard diary style journal. Before we get into it, I want to remind you that these are my ideas, and I want you to take what resonates and utilize it in your own way. And before we start, make sure to check me out on Instagram and to DM me to be part of my close friends, where I do polls and behind the scenes. And also, I would be so happy if you were to check out my Substack. I recently joined Substack. I have 3 posts, and it's been a pleasure to get into writing some more. So everything will be linked down below, and it would really mean the world to me. Let's talk about ways that journaling has changed my life and ways it has the power to change yours. There are obviously many kinds of journaling, but they all help you understand yourself and your interests and your life a bit better, as well as to better your eloquence and articulation and just ways of self-expression. And if you are a writer, or if you're interested in writing, all kinds of journaling will also help you that. They'll help you put words to feelings, to observations, to thoughts. I recently really been leaning into journaling as a form of research and leaning into this for leisure time and as a hobby. And this has been really training my observational eye in media literacy. And I'll talk about that more in a minute, and helping me remember the things I'm learning about, because I have many interests, and in today's really fast-paced world, it can seem hard to remember anything, quite frankly. How many times have I said, oh, I once saw this TikTok about something like, or I once read this article and it said something about how maybe, and I wanted to change that. I wanted to be more in touch with the things I look at, more in touch with the media I consume, and build a connection to them and deepen my knowledge and understanding of topics that interest me. So let's get started with my go-to commonplace notebook. A commonplace notebook is a place for all kinds of thoughts, ideas, musings, quotes, interest lists, honestly everything. And I'll link down a YouTube video below that explains why a commonplace notebook is so beneficial. But to me, it helps really cement my ideas. It keeps everything in one very messy place. And if you've heard of digital gardening, this is kind of the OG digital gardening on paper. That means taking all your interests and articulating them on paper. And there's a myriad of ways of going about this. I keep this in my back pocket essentially, and I write anything. If we flip through, here we have thoughts of a girl in the mountains when I was in the mountains in Italy this summer. Here we have a quote I repeated a couple times. The list of countries of which I have read a book from before, because I'm doing, if you're unaware, a tour of the world in books. The YouTube video will be linked down below, and there's a new one coming really soon, by the way. A bit of a more emo page on my feelings, but really everything, especially lists at the moment. Lots and lots of lists and mind maps. Everything gets penciled down, and I think writing things down will cement it so much deeper within you than typing ever could, because your brain connects to the movement of your hand, it connects to the grain of the paper, it connects to the fluidity of the pen, and this combination of motion to thoughts, because you're writing down words and expressing thoughts, it really just cements it deeper into your head. And that is one of the main goals I have with journaling, is to become more in touch with my thoughts and observations. So this has been really handy. And also, just having a small one which you can keep in your bag facilitates creating the habit of journaling, because this is literally the size of a wallet. This is literally a wallet, you know? This has been my new baby. This is my research and commentary notebooks. This notebook was heavily inspired by a video of Rachel in Theory, in which she spoke of her notebook ecosystem. And I took notes on that, and it actually really helped me create this habit. And the video, which obviously will be linked down below, speaks about how to engage deeper with any kind of media, any type of content. It goes by taking notes during your first meeting with it. So if you're reading a book, take notes on the margin. If you're watching a video, scribble down notes while you're watching. When you're done, you look through your annotations, etc. And then the part that really stuck with me is this note-taking process. So she says, and I've done it before with another YouTube video, she says to copy quotes or passages exactly as you hear them, read them, etc. You copy them down. This helps you cement it into your brain. Then you rewrite it how you understand it and how you take it in your own words, and to not try as much as possible not to mirror the author's initial words. And this proves your understanding of what you're reading, and again further cements it into your brain. And then finally make comments, and that's how you engage with the media you're consuming. I've been doing this for YouTube videos, for podcasts, for especially if it's a nonfiction book, really good. And in the notes part, in your own part, you can argue and criticize. Is there anything missing? Is there anything you'd add? Is there anything you disagree with? Or what do you actually like of the passage? And then if you actively want to use this later, the best way to engage with it is to write a whole essay type text, or you can film a video or make a podcast or talk about it to someone, but to properly engage with what you just read, consumed, etc. This is how you transform just a podcast you listen to a topic of understanding and of reflection. So Rachel and Theory has really helped me out with this one. Thank you so much. And I've been doing it in a multitude of ways, amongst other ways, which I'm going to be talking about now. I started this journal by listing down the topic of interests. So I have fashion, I have literature of the world, French classics, essays on life and art and language and society and culture. And then by setting down kind of these topics of interest, I'm setting intention for what kind of content and media I primarily want to engage with. Obviously, this shouldn't block you. And if you see anything else that strikes your interest, go for it. That's how you discover so much more about the world. Let yourself fall down rabbit holes. Then another thing I love to do in these is thoughts on books. So I can do those when I'm about halfway through, and then I do a proper book analysis at the end of my reading. I like to print out the photo as well so it feels more engaging. And what I love to do, especially before writing these reflections on the book, so I will write one when I'm about midway through to kind of get my actual ideas. And then once I finish the book, especially if it is a more complex book, I'll listen to some podcasts about it. My favorites are Overdue. I love Overdue, and I'll link them down below. And then I write a proper reflection, which links my understanding of the book to this new information I've gathered from the podcast. And I do it a bit review style, but a bit also just literary analysis. I've done this before for YouTube videos. So here we have what we can learn from 200 Years of Love. This is a great video. I'll link it down below as well. It's a video that talks about different philosophies of love and ranks them from most shallow to deepest. And I drew the little iceberg and I wrote down notes on all of them. And then I've left myself some space to give my final thoughts. I haven't done that yet. I think it's also nice when you're engaging with something more complex or which you're really interested in, to give you time between your reflections. So write down your initial notes first, and then maybe a couple days later write down your actual thoughts on it, because it gives you time to think and reflect on it. Another way I love to journal is through mind maps. This allows you to really visualize everything, get your notes down visually and in a very personal way, because you form your own connections, again deepening the contact between what's on paper to what's in your brain. And one of my favorite things I've been trying to do in order to stop this saving a bunch of random stuff on TikTok, because I save a lot of interesting stuff and then I never look back to it and then I forget about it, is I've been doing things I saw online which inspired me, recaps. Really just get these things on paper, and it allows you to engage differently with the content. It doesn't need to be long essays or literary classics for you to engage with it. You can engage with TikToks as long as you sit down, write notes, and think about why I liked what I liked and why I watched it, why I saved it, how I can use it now. Another way I've been engaging with media is I watched a movie recently. I watched The Stranger, and I had lots of questions when I came home. And sometimes before you actually sit down and reflect, it can be interesting to just write down all the questions you have on the book or on the movie and everything which left you a bit confused, and then you can look back to it a couple of days later and maybe answer some of the questions, maybe do some research on the questions. But it's also interesting to lean into your curiosities in this way. I've also been doing more and more research on fashion-based topics, because obviously this is of interest to me. So if I listen to podcasts, I write things down. If I learn theories on fashion, I write it down. Basically, write everything down, add photos when you can, make it visual, and make it really follow your structure. There's no need to follow anyone else's structure or make it look as beautiful as possible. And I can get that can be intimidating, because I was intimidated showing you some of these pages because I know my handwriting gets messy and my notebook is lineless, which means all of my sentences are skewed. But the point of this is really not aesthetics, in my opinion. Obviously, it can help if you make it look good to an extent, but really, it's meant for you. It's meant for you, so keep it for you. And this is even more true for the final type of journal I use, which is a diary styled reflection journal. This really helps tap into your understanding of self. What I do most often is morning pages, meaning I just wake up and right as I begin to touch the cusp of consciousness, write down all my thoughts. For I try to do 2 pages. Usually the standard is 3, but 2 is already plenty. And this really helps you also engage with whatever's going on in your mind in a more structured manner. It can be really hard at first to get your thoughts onto paper, but this really becomes a practice. And I also use this journal and this kind of style when something in my life goes a bit poorly, when I'm insecure on something, when I'm just feeling a bit down. I feel like that can often be the problems with these kind of journals, is that they tend to house all of your sad, insecure thoughts, which is why I also like having my other journal, so that when I read through it, a more complete picture of myself and not just myself under these moments of distress, because that's when I need it most. It can also be really interesting though to write down memories you have. This for me tends to go into the smaller one because I have it on me, but it can be really nice if you had the most beautiful day to write about it, reflect on it, make this memory part of your story, literally. And then for days when I don't really know what to write, I have a couple prompts laid out. Monthly pages, which is where I use prompts the most. In these, I describe my past month in 3 words. So, for instance, October would have been whimsical, cold, and slow, things like that. I write down my top 3 favorite memories. Again, this helps really just bring my story onto writing, and it helps me develop a better way with words, a better way of expressing myself. I write something I've learned. Sometimes there's more than one thing. Sometimes it can be really hard to find something, in which case I write even something silly like a new way to make your breakfast or something, what I want to let go of, as well as intentions for the following month. Other prompts which can help you interact with yourself and your life in more diverse, maybe fun ways are: what song represents your life at the moment? If you were to make a movie soundtrack, what songs would be on there? What's your favorite color and why? What's your favorite clothing piece and how does it inspire you? A very standard but very, very beneficial one is: what are some things I'm grateful for right now? This tends to be really good to incorporate in your morning pages and helps you build a mindset based on positivity instead of negativity, which is as I just said, what we typically tend to experience in journals. It can be good to write a letter either to your future self or to someone you haven't spoken to in a while, someone with who your friendship might have ended, or someone you love and feel a bit too scared to tell them how much you love them. It can be nice also if you have a photo you love to print it out, glue it in, and then describe the photo. Why do you love this photo? When did you take this photo? How did you take this photo? Why exactly do you love it so much? You can do the same thing for your favorite song, for instance. You can talk about how you feel you've changed in the past couple of months and how you wish to change in the next. All in all, there are tons of ways to journal and tons of different ways to get in touch with yourself. I hope this video helped you a bit, and I hope it helped you maybe discover new ways that you can get in tune with yourself. I feel like sometimes when we write and write about all the hardships in our lives, it can become a bit repetitive and we can start kind of victimizing ourselves in certain ways. And obviously, sometimes it's really important to get everything from your head onto paper. I just think that when that's all we do, when our journals represent only this, it can be a bit limiting in your self discovery, actually, because there is so much more to you than just the hardships you live through and your pains and insecurities and doubts and fears, etc., etc. There is so much more to you than all of that. There is so much to be said about you, from the things you love, from the things you're grateful of, from the things you see and think about and write about, and from your bestest memories and the things you're interested in. So I've been trying to shift my focus a bit from the first onto the latter, and that has led to the creation of my research-based commonplace notebook. And honestly, it is something I love, love, love. And it's also a great hobby to have, as it kind of limits me in my consumption of other media. I've been really trying to focus on the creating as much as I consume, and it's been really hard. And sometimes starting a painting or a drawing or a video just feels like too much, but sitting down and writing about something, or writing as I consume something, creating my thoughts and my journal and my essay kind of, is the perfect way to lean into creation even while consuming other forms of media. I hope this was clear and helpful. If you have any questions, please comment them down below. If you have any comments, any other prompts or ways of journaling that you love, let everything down below, and I hope to see you again very soon.